Hello viewers, welcome to our program Immigration and Legal Affairs. I am your immigration attorney Michael Fulwani, and once again we have with us attorney David Nachman. So Nachman, welcome.
Thank you,
Now,
Michael.
before we start today's program, remember this is Thanksgiving time, and we wish you and your family a very happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your turkey. If you are a vegetarian, maybe you can have a vegetarian turkey, right?
Exactly.
There is one message that I always give, David, to our viewers and our people and friends and everybody, that this is a good time. Thanksgiving is a good time for you to pick up a phone and thank your brother, your sister, your relative, whoever filed a petition for you, brought you to the US, helped you, come here and stay with them and settle down, and your lawyer, if he helped you and you were happy with his work, you can also call him and thank him for bringing him and the family to the United States. You want to say a few words in Hindi, you're learning, I believe.
I'm just gonna say hello to everyone. So I'm gonna say adab, namaste, and satasre akal.
Oh, very good, very nice, very nice. Okay.
And I'm going to also wish and pardon my accent. I'm also going to wish everyone a very, very happy Thanksgiving and enjoy the time with your friends and your family.
Okay. There is a question that we have from one of the viewers, very interesting and important question, and I think if we explain this question on the program to our viewers, many of them will really benefit from this information that we'll give in response to the question. The question is this: this person says, I came to the US without visa in December of 2000 and have been residing in the US since then. I work very hard, I pay all my taxes, and I want a green card. Now he says, I'm considering various options, so he must have done a lot of research for the options. Shall I get married? Married is single, obviously, or maybe divorced, or he's free to marry, in other words. First of all, remember, if you want to marry a citizen green card holder, you must be free to marry. That means you never married before, or you married and you have a divorce, or you are a widow or a widower, so you are free to marry. Yep. So he says, can I get married to a US citizen? Or somebody told me, if you have $500,000 or more and you want to invest, there's a EB-5 category under which you can apply. He also is thinking, he's got an employer, a friend, or somebody that knows him and wants to give him a job and sponsor him or a labor certification. His brother is a US citizen, and he says he can also file a petition, and he's also asking about political asylum. And it's in the end he says there is some 10-year rule. So let me, before we go into these details, and both David and we can talk about, even if this person hasn't raised that information or hasn't given the information, has anybody ever filed a petition for immigrant visa or a labor certification for him, or is a father or a mother or a brother that has filed for him?
Or he himself.
Or he himself.
Yeah, he himself may have filed something.
So either he himself or the father filed and he was under 21 at that time, the mother filed, he was under 21, right. Or the brother files a petition for him directly, or an employer has filed a labor certification before April 30, 2001. Why is that
and
so?
Michael, I was going to say, Michael, I think it's really important for us to tell our viewers why that's so critical, because probably 90% of the time, as with our practice, we sit down and someone comes into the office and asks the question like this, and the first thing that we want to know is whether or not they qualify under what's called the Life Act, which was 245I. And what the Life Act was an opportunity. It was, I won't go into the political history of it, but it's very interesting. It was kind of the law that was passed on the, before President Clinton left office.
By the way, that was the bill Senator Simpson, Alan Simpson from Kentucky, and Ron Mazzoli from Kentucky, sorry. Simpson was from, I think, Wyoming, and Mazzoli was from Kentucky, okay. Republican, Alan Simpson, Democratic Mazzoli. Both of them,
The bipartisanship. made
I
it
interviewed
possible,
them on the TV on the Simpson-Mazzoli bill in 1986 when this bill was passed. You continue.
So the Life Act then became sort of the torch, if you will, when President Clinton was leaving office. And my personal opinion is that the Life Act was passed because such a strong and rigorous immigration law had been passed in 1996 called IRA, and President Clinton, I think, realized after he had used that to seek re-election, before he left office, he eased everything up by passing the 245I program. What that did was it allowed an individual who had a qualified filing that was made prior to April 30th of 2001 to be able to stay in the United States and get their green card here and use that benefit, we call it grandfathering, for any future benefit that they wanted to get. Now, the thing is, though, they have to also show that they were physically present in the United States on December 20th of 2000, in addition to having that qualified filing on April 30th of 2001.
Let me ask,
unless, correct.
Unless, you see, let me give a little bit of history. And this bill was passed by the Congress, IRA. No, sorry, not IRA, this was Immigration Reform Control Act.
86.
That law was passed in 1986, and the law said anybody who was in the United States illegally before January 82, then he can apply for the amnesty.
Correct.
Or the agriculture program. Then that's a law that was there, under which a lot of people got. Then comes the IRA, where they said, okay, now enough is enough, and now we want to stop illegal aliens coming and getting a green card here. So if you are an illegal alien, you entered illegally, you cannot apply here adjustment.
Right, they set up a trap, Michael, and that was the 3 and the 10-year bar. And what they did was they said that if you are in the United States without status for 180 days, then you accrue unlawful presence, and if you leave, then you're barred. And the same thing for 365 days, except rather than it being the 3-year bar, it was the 10-year bar.
So when this bill was introduced, we, the advocates group, lawyers group, said, oh, what about the people who are already here or in the process? We call that a pipeline cases. So they said, okay. So you are at time now. We're giving you up to January 18, 1988, I believe.
Yeah, you probably have a good memory.
January 14, January 14, 88, and then the pipeline cases can continue. But then again we thought, no, but here's some more time, please, sir. I mean, what is this? We went on, finally this, okay. Then we are going to change the date to April 30, 2001, but those people who applied after 88 and before April 30 also have an additional requirement. They must be physically present here in the United States on December 21st of 2000.
December 20th of 2000.
I think we got to take a short break. I know our viewers really are anxiously waiting for more information. We'll give it to you. Just stay tuned and we will be back. Welcome back. Just before the break, we were answering the question of one of the viewers who had a lot of options in mind and wanted to apply to get a green card on any of these bases, except we don't know whether he has a 245I or not. Just before the break, David and me, we were explaining to the viewers that you got to have the 245I benefit if you want to adjust the status in the US, except there's one category where a person can still adjust their status under section 245A.
Correct.
If he came with a visa and gets married to a US citizen, or is a parent of a US citizen, or a child under 21 of a US citizen.
That's correct.
Other than that, any person who's illegally here and has not filed any 245I is not eligible You cannot forget these options. And there's no point of going to in these options. You cannot adjust.
Well, there's only one other option which recently became available under the U visa, Michael, which we talked about in a previous program, and that's an untapped area which also, I think that we have found lately with the U visas that that's an area that is very fluid and maybe a possibility for some of our viewers. So these are individuals who are the victims of certain crimes, and there's a list of those crimes under the U visa, things like people who are
Victims of trafficking,
sexual abuse, right, domestic violence, things like that. But there's a whole list.
We
what's
did a
interesting,
program on that, by the way.
we did. We did a program on it, and actually, I had someone ask me recently about the U visa, and one of the things also is, there are a lot of crimes on that list that you wouldn't really think of. And I think that I had mentioned to you that I had a client who came in a couple of weeks ago who said to me, I went through all the options. It was very similar to the type of situation this individual, this viewer posed. And I said to him, I said, have you ever been the victim of a crime? And he sat back and he said, well, it just so happened that a couple of years ago, I got into a taxi cab in a town in New Jersey, and somebody stuck a gun, got into the cab, stuck a gun into his ribs, and took all his money and ran. And that case was reopened by the investigator because they never found the person. And what we're doing is we're looking into the possibility, because he was robbed, of getting him a U visa. Now, here's an individual who is out of status in the United States, but if he's able to get U visa status, he would be able to be brought into status and ultimately get the green card.
A couple of other categories which may not need a 245, I will talk in a minute also, is the cancellation of removal. If a person is here more than 10 years and goes in the proceedings, and political asylum. Those two areas are the ones that where they may not need a 245I. But let's now start. Let's assume that. Now let us assume for the purpose of this discussion, because we don't know whether this person has a 245I or not. If he doesn't have it, there's no point for him to go over these. Just wait for some changes in the law or some new law to pass, which will either eliminate 245I or extend the date or pass the IRCA, the Immigration Comprehensive Removal.
Now let me ask you the next logical question that viewer who sent us that question would have asked you. If you told him, I don't know that there's anything I can do, maybe wait for the law to change and let's fly, maybe fly under the radar. Now, the next question I have for you, which the viewer would ask is, should I pay taxes or not?
I would say that you should pay taxes, because that is the law. It's not a question of whether that will benefit. Maybe going forward when you apply for anything, and if you show that you have been a law-abiding citizen, other than that's the violation of immigration laws, you work hard, you pay your taxes, it's a plus point.
Exactly, because not only that, if they're put into a proceeding, the immediate argument of the trial attorney is going to be that this is an individual without good moral character because they're not paying their taxes.
Exactly.
So you definitely want to be paying the taxes. Now the next logical question is, if you're telling me, Michael, that I have to pay my taxes but I'm out of status, how do I do it?
They get a TIN number, tax ID number. They take an accountant that I don't have a social security number. I cannot get a social security number. It is possible to get a tax identification number.
So let's tell the viewers how to do that. There is a form. It's an Internal Revenue Service, not immigration form. It's an Internal Revenue Service form. It's a tax form called a Form W-7. And what they do is they fill that out and they send it in to the tax authorities, and they get what's called an individual taxpayer identification number that allows an individual to pay their taxes.
And the client is going to ask you, if I do that, can they inform the immigration and arrest me?
And the answer to that probably is, at this point in time at least, and I'm not going to speak for what's going to happen in the future because they haven't matched databases, and there also is an informal recognition that tax and immigration don't necessarily share information. So in answer to that question, I would probably tell the person who's asking, very unlikely that it'll happen.
Because IRS wants taxes. They don't care about the immigration issue. IRS says anybody wants to pay us money, taxes, get a TIN number, send us a tax return, make the payment of the fees. So I would say highly unlikely, but as you said, caveat.
Well, Michael, this whole discussion gets into a very broad argument that the restrictionists use, and they say, oh, well, all of these people are in the United States, and they're illegal, and they're taking advantage of the system. But what they're leaving behind is the fact that really what's going on, at least for many, many of the people who we see in our office who have this problem, we're telling them to pay taxes, and I would say that easily 9 out of 10 of them are. And they're paying into the system, and they're not taking advantage of the benefits. So that kind of takes away from the restrictionists the argument that they say that the people who are in the United States are not necessarily paying into the system and taking advantage of the benefits.
Okay, then we come back after the break and talk a little more about these options. So stay tuned. Let us take a short break, and we'll be back after the break and discuss more about these options. So stay tuned, we'll be back. Welcome back. Just before we were talking about one of the questions from our viewers, which had asked us that he has been considering many options and wanted to get a green card on one of those options basis, and except the fact that he had no information whether he was eligible for 245I or not, and we discussed before the break about what 245I is and all that. And what we started doing that is assuming maybe this viewer has a 245I, then really we have to go into the options to advise how these options can work and what are the requirements under each option. We did discuss about marriage, that marriage a person has to be free to marry, and the marriage has to be bona fide. A lot of people think that it's okay, I'll give few $1,000s to somebody as a fraud. Please don't get into the consequences are very serious. Not only the immigration service could deny, but out of this will come a section, I think 204C, which says if your visa is denied because of a marriage fraud, permanently nobody can ever file any other petition on your behalf. So, and also the people can end up in a divorce, sorry, not a divorce, deportation actually.
Right.
So not a good option if you are considering a fraudulent marriage. Okay, the other thing we talked about, $500,000 or $1 million investment in your own business is okay. And with that, there was another slight thing to go, is he also said, well, I heard about this new program under which I can buy a house for $500,000 or $1 million. And again, the issue there is same 245I. Yes, he can buy a $250,000 house to live and another $250,000 for investment property, rental property, and may qualify. After this becomes the law, again, we keep on repeatedly saying this is not the law. So we'll wait, let's wait for this one. If it becomes the law, we can talk more about that. Right, David?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sponsorship by employer, why don't you go into that? Let us say this client of us, here the 245 is okay, and there's an employer who wants to file labor certification for him. Explain more about this.
Sure. Well, the place that we would start is probably by taking a look at his resume, also evaluating the strength of his potential employer as a sponsor.